seen anything without tears. Just what I was looking for.
Anything without tears. I've got my copy. Get yours now.
Welcome to this week's edition of Universal Parenting Clinic. This is the concluding part of our discussion on domestic abuse and violence from the last edition. In this edition, I will deal with ways to avoid domestic violence and abuse, how you can stop being abusive or violent, how couples, families can turn things around and enjoy abuse-free relationships, and how we all can eradicate, eliminate, and bury this evil monster that goes with the name domestic abuse or violence in our families. I will start first with those who are not married and those who are not parents yet, and those who are just planning to get married. It is essential that you lay very good foundation with strong planning. Is that man or lady ready to give what it takes to be a real husband or a real parent? A parent indeed, a husband or wife indeed. Am I ready? Prevention most times is the best cure. I know love, they say, is blind, but don't let it blindfold you. However, it doesn't matter how well you sight and notwithstanding how careful. Sometimes mistakes do happen. Sometimes because that innocent looking lady may be a terror in disguise, that gentlemanly looking guy could be a masquerading terror. Most times they don't manifest the madness in them until you have said, I do. There are so many babies claiming to be men, but in brain and attitude are mere boys. Same for the girls, calling themselves ladies. They have refused to grow and be matured. And most of the problems we have in the world now is because of the boys who suddenly find themselves becoming adults, not having become fully grown adults. And because a lot of them are suddenly becoming emergency parents. For instance, the clearest law officially known as the Domestic Violence Disclosure Scheme in the UK gives anyone in the UK a right to ask the police if they believe that they or a friend or relation is in a relationship with someone that could be abusive or that could be violent towards them. That is to say, you can make your findings before you enter the relationship or before you get fully engaged to know if that fellow has an abusive past. You can do this by different means. Many people ignore the turning and warning signs during courtship, thinking it will change or because of other prospects. Parents and siblings could also be helpful in this. If you get it wrong with your choice of husband or wife or partner, many things may go wrong. Your finance, your health, your spiritual life, career, everything. Your home may become hell on earth. You may lose your life. Advice that I will give you. Please, let us listen to the following advice. Lots of parents are the architects of their children's misfortune in life. Many people do not realize that becoming a husband, a wife, a parent is not merely a social title. It comes with multiple responsibilities that must be performed to the highest standard because the success of failure could make or mar the future of several children. Some of the monsters inflicting domestic abuse or violence on others are the products of some homes, and it most times shows the types of families they are from. Sometimes, though, there may be very few variations or exceptions. Another thing you need to do in life is be a good role model of a husband, a wife, a father, or a mother. Some families have become breeding factory for future criminals and abusers, especially because of the abusive and criminal lifestyles of the parents too. As I said before, remember, your child will most likely be your true copy, your carbon copy, your real copy, your exact copy, your original copy, your photocopy, your actual copy. What kind of copy of you are you replicating in your child? If you are a monster, your child is likely to become a monster too. If you are an abuser, you are sowing a seed that will eventually germinate in your child. Please, even if it is for the sake of your child, stop domestic abuse or violence now. If we all play our parts diligently as parents, domestic abuse or violence and most other antisocial behaviors and crimes will be eradicated in our societies. That's why Universal Parenting Clinic Limited C.I.C was established. So be a practical example of the best roles to your child. Be a role model of what you want that child to be. Watch your steps. Children are most likely to follow the steps of their parents. Every step you take as a parent is important in the life of your child because your child is watching and observing every step you take and every move you make. Like a replica of that song. Every step you take, every move you make, I want you to know that your child is watching you. You are the mirror that your child is using as image making. A father said to his son, "Son, watch your steps so you don't fall." The child in return replied politely, "Dad, you are the one to watch your steps because as long as you are making the right steps, I cannot fall because I'm following your footsteps." Exactly. All those daily endless rantings, the endless screaming at each other and the moments of name calling and hassles are not going unnoticed by your child. I had a long discussion with a man a few days ago. He never saw his dad eyeball to eyeball again from the age of 6 because the mom placed an embargo after the divorce due to domestic abuse and violence from the dad. Children take their identity from their parents. What type of identity are you passing to your child? An abuser or the abused? Adopt the principle of do unto others as you would want done to you. Would you also happily take the same measure of abuse or violence you are meting out to your partner? No, be sincere to yourself. Will you accept that? Unfortunately, nemesis do catch up with people because what you sow, you will reap. Many of those parents screaming against domestic abuse now or commenting on the social media in any abusive issue are also perpetual and chronic abusers. You are happy to torment another parent's daughter or son. Now, your child may benefit from the evil seed of abuse or violence that you sowed. Please stop that evil seed now because of the future of your children. Another point you need to know is minimizing traumatizing family conflict, arguments, or quarrels between you and your partner. And the ways to do this are not too difficult. First, change your bad habits. You need to drop or amend your ways as a husband, a wife, or a parent. Certain own and personal habits of your youth must be altered or discarded prior to or upon becoming a parent. Stop that avoidable quarrelsome lifestyle. Stop the incessant nagging. If you are usually violent and aggressive, it's a matter of time. Violence may run in your family because it will be transferred to or copied by your child, even if not in their gene, but by adoption. You need lots of patience, endurance, perseverance, humility, and tolerance. You need to put your emotions in check because you cannot react or respond to everything. You need to be patient during every aspect of marital and parenting lifestyles because your patience and endurance limits will be tested and pushed, stretched, sometimes beyond limits. Another thing you need to do is to teach your child proper etiquette. Lots of parents don't care to teach their children proper etiquette nowadays because some of them were not properly groomed themselves. As such, some families are raising future domestic abusers, future criminals. Modernization and civilization should not be used for window dressing unacceptable indecent acts. You see some ladies, you see some men abusing and inflicting serious evils on their partner just because their father enjoyed it, or because of retaliation for what their mom suffered in the hands of their parents. You need to avoid this. Another thing you need to do is to avoid the negatives of domestic violence, abuse on your children. Couples should know the severe effects of domestic abuse, domestic violence on the children of such relationships. You don't want your child to become a damaged good or product due to your carelessness or recklessness. Every type of domestic violence or abuse has the tendency to inflict physical, emotional, psychological scars and pain not only on your spouse or partner, but we also have devastating and lasting effects on the children of such relationships, which may cause lifetime injuries that may never be healed in their socio-economic, marital, and physical well-being. Exercise restraints and self-control in your actions, decisions, and your habits. Caution yourself. If you lack self-control in your choice of words and actions, and if you continue to engage in vulgar, negative, abusive, and destructive languages towards your partner and children as your way of life, there is every tendency that that child under your training will grow to become an irresponsible monster like you. If you are naturally violent, aggressive, emotional, bitter, and grumpy, you need to exercise self-control to address these negative attributes before it becomes too dangerous. Another thing you need to do, avoid transferred aggression. Lots of spouses ignorantly and inadvertently become abusive and aggressive towards their partner or children due to frustration.
Parenting without tears. Just what I was looking for.
Parenting without tears. I've got my copy. Get yours now.
I know a lot of negatives are happening in the world, but don't resort to transferred aggression on your spouse or children. Yes, you are experiencing hard time, but resorting to abuse or violence will only make it worse. That frustration will go, but the scars of the abuse or violence will be there forever. Understanding is also very essential. Understand who your wife or husband is. Know the peculiar circumstances and behavioral patterns of those around you. That way, you can adjust yourself to avoid or minimize conflict that may lead to abuses. What is the trigger point that creates frictions and abuse or violence in your home? You should realize the importance of compromise. The desire of a wife or a husband to always have his or her ways will most likely be the foundation for domestic abuse or violence. Learn to compromise reasonably. Embrace love. Say no to strife. Also, be accommodating. Another very important point that both you and your spouse needs to know is developing internal reasonable conflict or dispute resolution or management mechanisms that will work for you and your family. How do you reconcile little differences without it aggravating beyond manageable limits? Do you need to walk away to cool down? Go to your room and calm down. Sit down to discuss or seek interventions. If it lingers, it will definitely produce bitterness, aggression, and feeling of bottled anger with the urge to revenge, retaliate, or punish. Adopt effective communication techniques towards relating with one another too. Be flexible and don't be habitually rigid. In marriage, in parenting, in any relationship, there is bound to be minor errors and mistakes. Prepare for room to tolerate minor error and mistakes from others, with the allowance to adjust your rigid principle. Know when to admit you are wrong too. Learn to accept sorry and to say sorry when at fault. Also, set reasonable boundaries. Each relationship must be defined, and reasonable boundaries must be set around specific relationship. For yourself too, you need to set boundaries. You should know that regardless of what, it is only madness that will make a man or a woman to beat his or her spouse, to inflict bodily harm and injuries on the partner or child, to resort to violence or domestic abuse. You must know when to stop before any issue aggravates to violence or abuse. You should know when to quit that discussion, that argument, when tempers are rising and when emotions are getting out of control. If you are a victim, to set your boundaries right. Know when it is time to stop, to talk, to quit, and walk away to seek divorce. Watch who you work and associate with, because the sheep that flows with other dirty animals that feed on excrement will eventually eat excrement too, and it may be difficult to see leopards with all their spots. Generally, some pigs like to swim in moss, and it's difficult changing them. Hanging out with bad friends and associates will influence your behavioral pattern negatively. Be watchful and careful of who you discuss your marital issues with and whose advice you decide to implement. Managing crises of domestic abuse or violence is essential between partners. Avoid addiction to drug and drink. In the course of my research on the project of proper parenting, domestic abuse and violence, I realized the fact that some victims of domestic violence do turn to excessive drinking and drug misuse and abuse because the home front has become a prison of daily sorrow, confusion, and tears. Make your home the center of excellence and happiness. Avoid taking to drug or drinks, because even though it may give you that false hope of relief, excitement, and security, before long you become addicted. The more of the drugs and drinks that you take, the more abusive you will later become. The negatives outweigh any temporary relief you are seeking from it. If you are a victim already or an abuser, please avoid becoming addicted to drugs and drink. Also, very important, say no to suicide. Unfortunately, several factors are responsible for suicide and suicidal thoughts over the year, which I already taught on this show previously, and these have been on the increase. Those factors include indebtedness, homelessness, bullying, frustration, failure, joblessness, mental health, other health-related issues, drug and drink. However, of serious concern to you as a husband, wife, or parent is the fact that some of the outcomes of domestic abuse and violence have been the leading causes of suicide and suicidal thoughts recently. They include relationship breakdown, family stress, loneliness, abuse, rejection, depression, low self-esteem, feeling of helplessness, harassment, disappointment, and emotional breakdown. As such, the first major step in preventing suicide and preventing yourself becoming a possible victim of or instrument of another suicidal thought is to prevent anything that could cause, promote, or aggravate domestic violence. If you are a victim of domestic abuse or violence, please note that suicide is not an option. You have better and more glorious tomorrow. Another point you need to know is maintaining excellent mental health. Mental health imbalances could be triggered by domestic abuse or violence. Mental health challenges have been on serious increase. Some of these could be better managed, or in some cases could be avoided if partners and families learn to live in peace. I listed several of these mental issues on the topic of mental health on this show previously, and you can check it out as well. However, ensure you seek proper medical help, regular health checks, sleep well, and eat healthy meals. If the union is, however, becoming more stressful and driving you crazy, then it is a sign that something drastic needs to be done. You need to watch the first part of this topic on the need to act fast and now. This is Universal Parenting Clinic, and that brings us to the concluding part of that topic on domestic abuse and violence. This is Universal Parenting Clinic, where we deal with all practical issues affecting families. Till I come your way again by God's grace. I am the parenting advocate in the house. Michael Benga Bibilari MGB, Mr. Parenting. Please say no to domestic violence and abuse. Live in peace or live to live. Don't stay to lose all. Think parenting. Be positive in parenting. Talk parenting. Be passionate about parenting. Don't just be a parent. Stop posturing. Be a responsible parent, a real parent, a parent indeed. Parent well.